Welcome to the Micronaut podcast. I am your host, Sergio del Amo. This is episode 19. This is going to be a quick episode to give you an update about everything Micronaut Framework related. Let's start with an agenda update. In agenda, we have some upcoming events. I'm going to be teaching Micronaut Crack webinar, both online and in person in Madrid. So the online webinar will be in English, and I will be joined by Jared from Azul. 23rd of May, I will be doing a talk in Spanish in the Madrid Groovy and Java user groups. I will be also in JCon Europe, which is the 21st of June and the 22nd of June. I will be talking about our integration with MicroStream, and my colleague Alvaro will be doing a talk about unleashing the power of Micronaut applications with GraalVM in the Spain Oracle user group. That will be June the 5th. And there will be probably other events coming in the agenda. So whenever you are unsure if we have something coming, just visit micronaut.io/upcoming-events, or just go to our website micronaut.io and click resources, upcoming events, and you will find everything that we have in the pipeline in terms of events. In terms of releases, we have some good news. We released the latest minor version of the framework. That's Micronaut 3.9.0. It was released a week ago. There will probably be another minor release of Micronaut 3 before Micronaut 4 is released. This adds a couple of interesting features. It adds a security breaking change. Let's start with that. So we have Micronaut by default comes with cores with cross-origin resource sharing configuration disabled, but you can enable it, and you can provide like via configuration. You can define allowed origins, and allowed origins supported by default regular expressions. But what we're seeing is that this may cause for you to accidentally expose your API, and an attacker may be purchasing a domain name that matches your regular expression. So what we have done in Micronaut 3.9.0 is allowed origin no longer supports regular expressions. If you want to continue to use a regular expression, there is another configuration option now available called allowed origins regex, which will allow you to do that. But if when you are upgrading your application from Micronaut 3.8 or before to Micronaut 3.9, remember to check if you are using regular expressions, and either remove regular expressions, because allowed origins, for example, allows a list of origins, so you can match your multiple origins without using a regular expression. Or if you still want to use regular expressions, please use the allowed -origins -regex configuration. More course related news. We have a new annotation called cross origin. So until Micronaut 3.9.0, you had to configure cores always via configuration. Now you can, if you just, for example, want to enable a single endpoint in your application for cores, you can come to the controller and annotate either at a class level or at a method level with cross origin, and you can supply the same values that you are used to via configuration. You can use them in the annotation. We think these two steps will make applications, so it will make both cores more easily configurable, but also more secure applications, because you can really go to a fine grain level and only allow the endpoints that you need to be accessed via, for example, via JavaScript application. More news in Micronaut Security. Micronaut 3.9 includes a version of Micronaut Security which allows you to specify a JSON web key set from the class path or from this. Until now, and I think it will be the case for most of the users, you want to use a JW key set that is exposed in a remote endpoint. So until now you had to specify like a URL for the typically in a, for the public keys that typically will be exposed in a JW key set. But now if your organization requires this, you can actually provide those via the class path. Micronaut Crack, that I mentioned before in Agenda, has now support for Redis and Juke. So we keep adding things to Micronaut Crack. So if you want to test it out, please do. And if anything that any integration that you're using doesn't currently works, let us know and we will work towards supporting it. Speaking of Micronaut Crack, a related thing is Micronaut AWS Lambda Snapstart, which is fully compatible with Micronaut Crack because it uses the Crack API. So we have done changes in Micronaut Starter and Micronaut CLI so that when you generate an application using, so if you go to Starter, I will include a link in the show notes of this podcast episode. If you select AWS Lambda CDK features, and Amazon API Gateway HTTP, for example, the infrastructure as code that will be generated in your multi-project build will include all the necessary configuration to enable snap start in your project, and also publish a version of your Lambda function and configure the API gateway to actually proxy to that published version. So what that means is that it's becoming easier and easier to use Lambda and Snapstart with Micronaut. Another big news in the Micronaut Kubernetes integration, we have updated to the Micronaut 3.9 ships with Micronaut Kubernetes 4.0, which updates to version 18 of the Kubernetes Java client. So that's quite a big update from the previous version. But the Kubernetes Java client was affected by several CVEs, so we had to update to the latest version. So please check it out because Micronaut Kubernetes is getting more and more fully featured. We have updates in all the cloud modules. So if you go to Micronaut Azure, Micronaut AWS, Micronaut GCP, or Oracle Cloud, so if you are using those, there are minor upgrades in several transitive dependencies. So if you want to use the latest SDKs of all the clouds, please do update to Micronaut 3.9. We have also updates in Micronaut SQL. So Micronaut SQL, for example, updates now to Hibernate 5.6.15, but there are updates in things such as the PostgreSQL driver, etc. Micronaut Test also updates to the Mockito 4.11 and Mock-K 3.13.3. That's also Micronaut minor versions is where all these transitive upgrade comes. So it's always good to update just to get those. Micronaut Elasticsearch now updates also to 7.17.9. So if you are using Micronaut Elasticsearch, let us know. We have done a big effort to update all the configuration in the framework. So as you know, Micronaut is configuration agnostic, and you can configure your applications with either YAML, properties file, TAML, config4k, or even Groovy. And what we have done is we have changed all of our modules documentations, and whenever we show a documentation snippet, you are able to change to the format that you use in your application, so to the format that you are more comfortable with. This is, for example, the same that we do for code snippets, that you can change from Java, Groovy, or Kotlin and see the code snippets in your favorite language. This is the same for configuration, so we can try to be as agnostic as possible and have the best developer experience possible when you are reading the docs. And the last thing I wanted to highlight from actually a couple of things, the Micronaut Maven plugin updates to Jeep 3.3.1, moreover Micronaut Launch and Micronaut CLI applications. So if you go to launch.micronaut.io and you select Maven and you click generate, your application will use the Apache Maven 3.9.1. So there have been 2 releases of Apache Maven. So whether you are creating a new application, if you create a new application, it will use the latest. But if you are using an old application, we encourage you to update to the latest Apache Maven version. And now for real, the last thing I wanted to highlight is we have several new features in the Micronaut CLI and Micronaut Starter. So we have the Data Azure Cosmos feature. So if you want to use Micronaut data with Cosmos DB, we have a feature which will add the necessary dependencies to your application. We have a feature also for Google Cloud Function Cloud Events. So we added support for cloud events in Micronaut 3.8. And this is a feature to essentially add the necessary dependencies and configuration to your application. And we have some community features as well. We have an update to Camunda Platform 7, which supports the Camunda Platform 7 workflow engine. And we have the Gradle Enterprise feature now supports both Maven and Gradle applications. And there is a new feature from a third-party library, the Agora Pulse Micronaut Slack, which is an idiomatic alternative to the Bolt Micronaut library for Slack integration. Several minor improvements, minor dependency upgrades. So please, everyone, try to update to the latest Micronaut version. Give us feedback, and let me jump into the next section. I want to use the Micronaut podcast to give you updates about what's coming in Micronaut 4 to get you ready. And one of the things that I want to cover today is the upgrade to Java 17. So Micronaut 4 sets the Java baseline to 17, and we have talked about it in several places. And so we talk, for example, in the latest Micronaut town hall back in Q1 of this year. Micronaut 3 supports Java 8, Java 11, and Java 17. So the last 3 LTS releases from Java. We will continue to support Micronaut 3. So if you want to stay on Java 8 and Java 11, Micronaut 3 will be there for you. But we are going to set the baseline for Micronaut 4 to Java 17. There are a couple of reasons. First of all, it allows us to develop APIs using modern Java features. So things such as records, field classes, pattern matching. So there are many features right now that we cannot use. So just by setting the baseline to Java 17, we will be able to leverage those features in the internal Micronaut code and also in the public APIs that you all Micronaut developers use. Also, we believe that cloud vendors, they are ready now for Java 17. So Micronaut is a framework that supports, and we have integrations with all the 4 major clouds, whether you want to use Oracle Cloud, Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud. We have integration for those, and almost all of the services, whether they are Azure functions, OCI functions, or AWS Elastic Beanstalk, or Google Cloud Functions, they all have already support for Java 17. So I think many of the Micronaut community deployed to the cloud, and they're already pure Java runtimes for Java 17. So I think the ecosystem is ready for that. Also, Java 17 is significantly faster. So we see that in our own test suite. So we see for example, Micronaut Guides, which is a huge test suite. Java 17 is 30% faster. So I think all of us, the framework developers and the Micronaut community, going to Java 17 will mean just faster application just by doing that. And it will save us also a lot of continuous integration time that currently is spent waiting for Java 8 builds to complete. And that will in turn, for us, allow us to basically deliver features faster to you. And the last thing that I wanted to say is all of the Micronaut documentation and the Micronaut guides tutorials, whenever we show a code snippet, those code snippets are coming from real Java code. And right now we are constrained to using code. We cannot show a lot of modern Java code. So although you can, nowadays you can use Java 17 with Micronaut 3, if you go to our documentations, all of our documentation seems like we are still living in the Java 8 world. So this will allow us to basically update all our docs to show modern Java
which, to be honest, is I think Java has made a significantly a more pleasant developer experience if you are like working with Java 17 than if you are working with Java 8, and that will reflect in our docs. Do you want to highlight anything about the Java 17 baseline change, Graham?
No, I think you more or less covered it. I think, Java 17 is actually the first release of Java since Java 8 where you can really make practical improvements to the design of the API. Features that adds like record CL classes, CL types, and so forth. So it just makes sense at this point if we want to modernize a lot of our APIs.
In the latest episode of the Groovy podcast, Graham talked to Ken Kausen about the same topic. So let me play that to you.
Graham, I got to ask you a technical question anyway. One of the things that Spring did, because I got to say, I mean, I teach technical training classes, and a lot of my demand that I do is Spring related. The move to Spring Boot 3 and Spring 6 required a jump to Java 17. Now, that's a bold move because while Java 17 is growing in adoption, I don't even know if I think they're out of single digits now, but I doubt they've broken 20%. I mean, I haven't seen any statistics lately. Are you familiar with any numbers? But I mean, I guess what I really want to ask is what the plans are for Micronaut and or Grails, if you happen to know. What are they going to move the minimum JDK up to 11? Are they going to go to 17? Or do they care about non-LTS releases, all that kind of stuff? Because, I mean, 20 had nothing in it. I mean, there wasn't preview,
Right. So in the case of Micronaut, we will be making the same jump in Micronaut 4.
To 17?
Yes. So we will have to keep supporting Micronaut 3 for a long time.
Right.
And we'll continue to do so because that is the Java 8 plus version of Micronaut. So we don't anticipate abandoning that branch, if you want to call it that. But Micronaut 4 will be a Java 17 baseline as well. And Micronaut 4 is also an opportunity for us to obviously clean up, modularize further, complete the shift to the Jakarta namespace from JavaX, and which was, which we still have some remnants of in Micronaut 3. Update all of our dependencies to new major versions, so things like 5 and 8.6 and so forth. And it's kind of a little bit inevitable for us because, even if we wanted to stay on an earlier version of Java, Micronaut 4, it's less and less technically feasible as our third-party dependencies drop support for.
Right.
So we have transitive dependencies on some modules that we already have many transitive dependencies on certain modules that were Java 11 minimum, and there's more and more that are like now Java 17.
Get ready for Java 17 coming as the baseline of Micronaut 4 applications. So many thanks to the Micronaut Foundation's sponsors, which make this podcast possible and makes also funds the development and the advocacy of the framework. So many thanks to Object Computing, which is an ambassador sponsor of the Micronaut Foundation. Thanks to MicroStream, which is a silver sponsor of the Micronaut Foundation, Safri.net, Visor Games, and -Q, which are bronze sponsors of the foundation. Many thanks as well to our engineering partner, Oracle, and also to our tools and infrastructure partners, both Gradle Enterprise and JetBrains. And thanks to all the community sponsors who sponsor the framework as well. That's all for today. Thanks a lot for listening to the podcast. Update your applications to Micronaut 3.9. Stay tuned to the podcast to more updates about Micronaut 4. And happy coding. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.